They said time only bends for gods, never for men. Yet the moment he looked at her, the world forgot how to breathe. Raindrops hung midair, candles flickered without burning, and every clock surrendered its pulse. He didn't understand why, only that her smile felt like a memory the universe had been waiting to remember. He tried to move, but the air had turned to glass. The streets were trapped between one heartbeat and the next. Even his breath echoed like a confession caught in eternity. In that stillness, he saw the truth. His love wasn't a gift, but a curse. The deeper he felt, the quieter the world became. He spent lifetimes searching for silence that didn't hurt. Monks called him a miracle. Scientists called him a myth. Lovers called him impossible. But every time he fell, time fell with him, until only loneliness remained, frozen beneath his touch. Then one night, in the hour between dream and dawn, he heard something impossible. A voice, soft, human, trembling through the frozen air. She wasn't supposed to exist, not in the stillness. Yet her whisper rippled through the silence like sunlight across water, and the stars began to tremble as if remembering how to shine. He turned toward her, and for the first time, the world moved. Dust rose from the floor. The rain finished its fall. And time, the ancient prisoner of his heart, exhaled in wonder. He didn't know her name, only that her voice had taught eternity how to begin again. Time froze. When he fell in love, until she whispered in the silence between seconds. When time awoke again, it didn't rush. It hesitated, slow, cautious, as if afraid that one more breath of love might shatter the fragile order of the world. In the aftermath of stillness, he stood among the ruins of suspended moments, every raindrop reflecting a memory of what had just been lost. He had stopped time again, without meaning to, and this time, he knew exactly why. For years, he had lived between seconds in the quiet gaps where the world forgot to move. The curse had been his shadow since the first heartbeat he dared to feel. Each touch became a tremor in eternity, each feeling a wound carved into the fabric of hours. He thought love was something meant to save, not something that could break the clockwork of existence. Yet his heart refused to forget her voice, the one sound that dared to ripple through the silence he had built around himself. Now the world breathes again, faintly, like an injured creature testing its lungs. Somewhere within that tender rhythm, she still lingers, her whisper echoing in the corners of time, calling him toward a fate neither divine nor human. It is said that when two souls are meant to find each other, even eternity bends to listen. If you believe that love can move, even the things meant to stand forever still, stay with us until the last second fades. Subscribe, share your city and hour in the comments, and let your heart wander with ours. Because tonight in this silence between seconds, love begins again. Chapter 1. The hour between seconds. He had learned to walk gently through frozen worlds, the way a pilgrim steps across a lake of glass. Weightless, careful, afraid of hearing anything break that was never meant to break. When love rose inside him, the city went still. A cathedral of halted motion appeared around him in an instant. Blades of rain silvered and unmoving, pigeons poised like sculptures mid-wing, a taxi's headlamps smearing into fixed halos. He stood beneath the iron ribs of the old train station, and even the clocks on the far wall, great brass faces older than the century, offered him their surrendered hands. He didn't call it a miracle anymore. Miracles didn't come with such cost. They didn't leave him alone in the after-image of joy, navigating a gallery of people who could not blink. Love had touched him, and the world, for the world, refused to breathe. He should have turned away. He should have waited it out, the way he always did, until the thrum of hours found its way back to the rails, and the announcement board coughed letters to life. But tonight, the stillness felt different. Not absolute, not merciless. It held a question inside it, as if time itself were listening for an answer. That was when he saw her. A girl in a long coat stood at the edge of the platform, where a spill of light from the station cafe hung motionless in the air like a veil. Her hair did not sway, her scarf did not flutter. But she was moving, slowly, precisely, threading herself through the arrested world as though she had studied it all her life. Her hand hovered above a droplet of rain. She did not touch it. Her eyes, clear, attentive, almost reverent, traced the boundary of the droplet's curve, then lifted toward the brass clocks. She tilted her head, as if listening to a music no instrument could play. He forgot to be afraid. She stepped closer, testing the air with the back of her wrist, as if feeling for a temperature rather than a current. When she reached the line of light falling from the cafe window, she stopped. With 2 fingers, she gathered a sheet of napkin from a table where a couple sat motionless, his laugh unfinished, her hand a breath from his. The girl did not disturb them. She tore a narrow strip from the napkin and raised it before her mouth. Then very gently she breathed. Not a sound, not even a tremor. The strip hung, obedient to the kingdom of no wind. Her eyes found him, and something like recognition passed there. Recognition, maybe, or the startled warmth of a belief turning true. She touched 2 fingers to her throat, then to the hinge of the nearest clock, and finally to the air between them, a small, elegant line that said, "I know where I am. I know what this is." He tried to speak. Words in the stillness always felt like throwing stones in a cathedral. He shaped his mouth around the truth, the explanation he never gave, and realized how foolish language looked when time refused to carry it. She solved it before he could. She slipped a pen from her pocket, its ink suspended in the barrel like a midnight river, and coaxed a single droplet to the ballpoint with the warmth of her palm. On the back of her hand, she wrote one careful word, the letters shining in that micro rain. How? He had no pen. He pressed a hand to his chest, breathed in, despite the world, and nodded. Heart. She studied him as if he were an instrument she could learn to play by watching. Then she lifted her hand again, this time not to the paper, but to the air near his shoulder. She did not touch him. She only held her palm an inch away, the invisible distance between skin and skin electric as prayer. The strip of napkin rose between her fingers like a white petal, and without moving the world, she let the faintest breath escape, a breath that did not travel as sound so much as shape. He felt it, the ghost of a whisper, patterning his skin. "Who are you?" the breath seemed to ask, without letters, without voice. The question was a warmth, on his cheek, a shiver along his jaw, a vibration passing into the hollow below his ear. He realized then, she was not listening for noise. She was listening for change, for the way matter remembered motion in the absence of it. He framed the answer with his body, letting his chest rise and fall once, slowly, a promise he had not made to anyone in years. Her eyes softened. She drew another strip of napkin, wrote with her rain ink, "I grew up in silence. Learned to feel what sound leaves behind." The explanation folded the universe into sense. A girl who inhabited the seam between things, a student of aftertones, of tremors, of the seamstress work that held minutes to minutes. Perhaps silence had been a country to her, not a sentence. Perhaps she had learned how to walk its hills to read its weather. He pointed to the clocks, to the motionless hands at 10 and 3. He shook his head. Not safe. Then to himself, "I do this. Accident." He touched his sternum again, love, and opened his palm. Toward the frozen rain, a helpless apology to a planet interrupted. She considered, then lifted her fingers and wrote, "You did not break the world. You only reminded it of a rule it forgot." The smile that followed was small and unsentimental, the kind you give a stranger on a train when you share the same window of light. She held the strip of napkin again, nearer to his mouth, and shaped another breath, softer than before, into his collarbone, a windless whisper that spelled a second, truer, question in the nerves beneath his skin. "Do you want it to move?" He had never been asked that. He had always assumed his wanting was the cause of the hurt. He looked out across the stalled platforms, the orchestra of posture and almosts, and found himself ashamed of the tenderness he felt. He wanted the old man on the bench to finish tying his shoe. He wanted the child reaching for a balloon to feel the ribbon slide into his palm. He wanted rain to complete its kingdom on the ground, and for every halted breath to become a laugh, a sigh, a name. He nodded. She stepped so near the world seemed to lean with her. The pen fell from her hand and did not land. Her mouth was an inch from his ear. He felt no sound, only warmth, only the delicate architecture of breath-shaping meaning where meaning had no road. It was not a word, it was a memory of word, an outline, a contour. But the contour fit him perfectly, as if she had discovered the one name the universe used when it wanted him to listen. In the brass face above them, a second hand shivered. The rain quivered in its hanging. The taxi's halo narrowed. Somewhere in the pinned orchards of soundless space, a pigeon's feather remembered that it belonged to sky. He closed his eyes, and in the old station's iron ribs, something like a heartbeat passed, first through steel, then through stone, then through him. The world did not rush back. It learned. The lesson was slow and exquisite, like ink remembering how to travel across paper. The clocks began to breathe, first shallow, then deeper, until the steady tick emerged from the hush like a lark from dusk. The strip of napkin finally fluttered, her hair lifted. A laugh from the cafe finished being born. She stepped back, the distance of a sigh. He heard the station speaker crackle as if embarrassed to be so ordinary. The announcement board coughed up a line of letters with all the dignity of rain finding ground. "Tell me your name," he said, cheap, simple, human, and marveled that the words could walk through air again. She pointed to her ear, then to her throat. "I don't hear what other people hear," she answered, voice low and careful, a river taught to move through stone. "But I hear this." Her fingers tapped the bench, the pillar, his sleeve, each tap a metronome. "And I can whisper where sound doesn't reach." He wanted to ask her everything at once, how she found the seam, how she survived being the only motion in a calmed sea. Instead, he chose a gentler, courage. "Can you show me again?" She smiled like a secret, deciding to live outside a diary. "At the hour between seconds," she said, "it's when the world is softest." "What time is that?" She looked up at the brass clock, now keeping its promise. "When you're brave enough not to run from what you feel." He swallowed, found his own foolish courage, and nodded. "Then I'll be here." She slipped the pen back into her pocket, let her fingers rest at her throat as if measuring a note that could only be measured by touch. "Bring a question," she said, turning toward the tunnel's mouth where the train's wind, blessed, ordinary wind, was finally arriving. "And a truth you're not ready to tell." He watched her go, the world obediently alive around her, and understood that he had not been saved. He had been invited to an hour with no address, to a lesson older than clocks, to a language his heart already knew. And somewhere beneath the station and above it, and within the thin, luminous edge of every raindrop that would ever fall, time kept breathing, as if ready to learn again. Chapter 2. The Language Between Heartbeats. The following night, He returned to the station before midnight. It was alive, ordinary, human, for now. The cafe hummed with conversation, laughter, the fragile music of dishes colliding and promises being made too loudly. He sat at the far end of the platform, beneath a lamp that flickered like a heartbeat trying to remember its rhythm. The memory of stillness lingered in his skin, the thin air, the weightless silence, the girl who could move through it. He waited for the hour between seconds. He didn't know when it began. There was never a sound, never a warning. The world simply paused, like a breath caught mid-laughter. The chatter vanished, mid-note. The coffee steam froze into glassy ribbons above the cups. Every light crystallized in its own glow. Only the echo of his pulse remained, steady, mortal, defiant. And then, she was there. She stepped from the end of the platform where the shadows met the frozen wind, her coat trailing a ghost of warmth. The same serenity lived in her movement, the same knowledge in her eyes. But tonight, something softer followed her. Curiosity. She held no pen this time, only a small silver watch hanging from her wrist, its hands refusing to move. "You came back," her voice said, though it was less a sound and more a tremor carried through the stillness. He smiled, or something like it. "You said you'd show me," he answered, "how to speak where time can't hear." She nodded once, eyes shimmering with the reflection of unmoving light. "Then listen, not with your ears, with the places that ache when you miss someone you've never met." He closed his eyes. At first, he heard nothing. Then, something less than sound, more than silence. Her breath shaped words that didn't exist in any language, syllables made of feeling, of vibration, of memory. It was the rhythm of rain touching glass, of a heartbeat learning to echo another's. It wasn't speech, it was understanding. The stillness was no longer empty. It was full of her. When he opened his eyes, she was closer. The distance between them had narrowed to a single exhale. Her hand hovered near his cheek, not quite touching, drawing invisible symbols in the air. Small spirals, soft arcs. Every motion left a faint trail of gold in the frozen light. "What are you saying?" he whispered. "That everything has a heartbeat," she replied. "Even silence." Her words, if they were words, sank into him like warmth spreading. Through frost. He realized she wasn't teaching him to hear. She was teaching him to feel time itself breathe. "I thought love broke the world," he said. "I thought it was my curse." She shook her head, the slow, graceful denial of someone who knows truths older than sorrow. "Love doesn't break anything. It only shows where things were already cracked." He wanted to believe her, but he remembered the centuries of stillness he'd caused, the faces trapped mid-smile, the oceans frozen under, moonlight. "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because you've been alone inside the pause," she said simply. "You've never let someone else stand there with you." The realization struck him harder than any clock's chime. His loneliness had never been silence. It had been waiting. He reached for her hand, trembling, hesitant, and for the first time, time did not stop. The world held its breath, but didn't vanish. The rain around them quivered, uncertain, as if watching. Their fingers met. Not entirely, just the lightest graze of warmth, and the station shuddered. A ripple moved through the air, bending light, stirring particles of dust into a spiral that glowed softly like dawn captured inside glass. He pulled back, startled. "Did I?" "No," she said, smiling. "We did." It was then he saw it. The clocks on the wall, half moving, half still, their hands quivering, uncertain between moments, neither frozen nor alive, but learning. "What's happening?" he asked. Her gaze lifted toward the trembling seconds. "The world is trying to remember a rhythm it forgot. It's listening to us." They stood there, two figures in the half motion of creation, while the world rewrote its laws around their breaths. He could feel the beat of the universe syncing with the beat beneath his ribs. The curse, he realized, had never been about punishment. It was about harmony, an unfinished song that needed two voices. When she stepped closer again, he didn't flinch. The rain fell faster now, clinging to her hair, glittering in her lashes. Time itself seemed to bow between them, shy and reverent. She leaned close, her whisper brushing against the corner of his mouth like an unfinished word. "This is how the world remembers it's alive," she said. He smiled, and the station's speakers crackled back into existence, the faint hum of returning electricity filling the air. "I don't even know your name," he murmured. She glanced at him with the faintest spark of mischief, the kind that belongs to miracles pretending to be human. "Names are what time gives things to keep them apart," she said. "We don't need them here." Then, as if hearing some invisible signal, she stepped backward into the frozen glow. "The hour between seconds ends soon. Next time, don't wait for silence to find you. Create it." He took a step forward, but the air between them had already begun to blur. Light folded around her like a sigh, and when sound returned, footsteps, trains, laughter, the indifferent voice of a timetable, she was gone. Only a faint shimmer remained on the concrete, and the ticking of clocks that, for the first time in his memory, didn't sound like prison bars. He looked up at the clock, now alive and mercifully ordinary, and whispered to no one, "I'll learn your language, even if it takes forever between heartbeats." Chapter 3. When silence learned his name. The following evenings blurred together, nights folded into hours, and hours into fragments of waiting. He had stopped counting days a long time ago. Time had never cared to count him back. But now, for the first time, he wanted to be measured. He wanted the clocks to notice when he passed. He returned to the station every night, though she did not come. The world remained obediently alive. Footsteps, announcements, the laughter of strangers who had never lost a second. He stood among them like a ghost walking through borrowed time. Every sound felt too sharp, every heartbeat too loud. Yet beneath it all, he could still sense the other rhythm, the faint echo of the hour between seconds. He remembered her words, "Don't wait for silence to find you. Create it." But how does one create silence without breaking the world? He tried to remember how she moved, how she had breathed into stillness without fear, how her eyes had shimmered with something that wasn't light but understanding. He closed his own eyes, standing in the middle of the platform as the midnight train passed. Wind whipped around him. The sound rushed through the air like the pulse of 1,000 living moments. And he did not resist it this time. He let it pass through him. When he opened his eyes, the train was gone. So were the people. But this time, the stillness wasn't complete. It trembled. The air pulsed faintly, as if unsure of the rules. Drops of rain hesitated mid-fall, vibrating slightly in place. The light from the street lamps flickered, neither alive nor dead. It was not the frozen silence of before. It was a living pause, something breathing just beneath the surface of stillness. He smiled, heart pounding softly. He had done it, not by stopping the world, but by listening to it so deeply that it fell quiet with him. "Is this what you meant?" he whispered. The echo that answered wasn't her voice, but something else, something vast and tender. A sound like stone remembering water, or wind remembering the trees it once belonged to. It was the universe, exhaling his name for the first time. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The silence moved through him, delicate but infinite, brushing against his skin like 1,000 invisible wings. It wasn't empty. It was full of presence. Every particle of the air seemed to hum with a question. Now that you've learned the stillness, what will you do with it? He didn't know, but instinct guided him. He placed his hand over his chest and closed his eyes again. "I'll speak," he whispered, "even if no one hears." The silence rippled. Time tilted slightly, as if leaning closer. He began to talk, quietly, honestly, to the emptiness around him. He spoke about all the moments he had stolen from the world without meaning to, about the weight of being the reason nothing could move. He spoke about love, not the kind that saves, but the kind that teaches. He spoke about her, the girl who moved through stillness as if she'd been born from it, who taught him to listen with more than his ears. Every confession became vibration, every truth became soundless light. And then, something impossible happened. He felt her. Not the way you feel touch or warmth, but like a note vibrating in harmony. She wasn't beside him. She was within the silence he had made. Her voice, or perhaps the memory of it, rose softly through the pause. "You found it." He turned, and there she was, faint, translucent, like moonlight seen through water. Her form wavered in the flickering air, half light, half memory. "Am I dreaming?" he asked. "No," she said gently. "You're remembering forward." Her words sent a shiver through the world. The clocks around the station began to blur, their hands looping backward, forward, then stopping again. Time was no longer a straight line. It was bending, folding around them like fabric remembering its weave. "What's happening?" "You're becoming part of it," she whispered. "You're learning the language that holds the universe together, the one between sound and silence." He reached out. She mirrored the gesture, and though his fingers passed through light, he felt warmth, the warmth of understanding. "I thought the curse was ending," he said. She smiled, small and almost sad. "Curses don't end. They transform. You were never meant to escape time, only to teach it to listen." Her outline flickered again, brighter, then fainter, as if the world was deciding whether it could hold her form. "Will I see you again?" he asked, voice trembling. She tilted her head. "Every time you breathe between heartbeats." And with that, the silence deepened. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of meaning. The rain began to fall again, slow and forgiving. The clocks returned to their rhythm, gentler now, as if they'd learned mercy. He stood alone on the platform, drenched, eyes closed, smiling. For the first time, the ticking didn't sound like time, escaping. It sounded like time listening. And above it all, in the hush between 1 second and the next, he swore he heard her whisper again. His name, carried in the quiet like a promise that even eternity could keep. Chapter 4. The echo that broke eternity. At first, he believed the silence had learned to live in peace with him. Days passed without incident, days that, for the first time in his life, felt like days. He woke to the sound of morning, to the fragile ticking of clocks that no longer feared him. The world seemed healed, the curse transformed into a quiet friendship between his heart and time itself. But peace, he soon realized, was never meant to last where miracles had walked. It began with a whisper, faint, trembling, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. At first he thought it was her. The sound slid through walls, through reflections, through breath. It called his name the way wind calls trees, softly, almost lovingly. But when he answered, the whisper multiplied. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of echoes repeating him, distorting him, fracturing the air into ripples of unfinished time. The clocks began to falter again. He watched in horror as the world stuttered. A drop of rain would fall, hesitate, and rise. A man's laughter would start, fade into a sob, then restart again. Reality had become caught between yes and no, between motion and memory. He tried to calm it, whispering into the air the way she had taught him, using the stillness like a language. But the silence no longer listened. It trembled as though the universe itself was struggling to breathe. That night, he returned to the station. The air shimmered with fractured time, glimmers of light hanging in, spirals, broken reflections of people repeating gestures out of sync. He walked through it carefully, whispering her name between each heartbeat. No answer. Then, faintly, he saw her, or what remained of her, standing at the end of the platform, her form flickering like a candle caught between gusts. Each time she tried to speak, her body blurred into threads of light, then reassembled with effort. "You shouldn't have called it alone," she said, her voice echoing twice, once from her lips, and again from the air itself. "I didn't mean to," he answered. "It came to me. The silence. It wanted to speak." Her expression softened, but her light dimmed. It wasn't silence that answered. It was the echo, the part of eternity that repeats what it doesn't understand. He felt the weight of her words before he understood them. "You mean I've broken it?" "You've awakened it," she said quietly. "The space between seconds. It's alive now, and it's trying to find a rhythm of its own." Behind them, the city shuddered. A clock tower struck midnight 3 times in a single breath. The trains below screamed forward, halted, reversed. Light bent in circles. She stumbled. He caught her, or tried to, his hand passing through her half-formed body. Still, he felt warmth, faint but real. "What happens if it finds me?" he asked. "It already has." The world shook then, not violently, but like a pulse too strong for its veins. The walls of the station blurred into streaks of gold and blue. He saw flashes of every moment he had ever frozen, every stranger's smile, every raindrop, every unfinished heartbeat, spinning around them like constellations out of orbit. "It remembers you," she whispered. "Everything you've touched, everything you've paused, it's all here." The echoes surrounded them, ghostly silhouettes of people half alive, whispering fragments of his own words back at him. "You stop time. You stop time. You stop time." He covered his ears. "Make it stop." "You can't silence what's been born," she said, kneeling beside him, her light flickering weaker. "But you can teach it to listen." "How?" "The same way you taught me," she said. "With love that doesn't need to be heard." She pressed her hand to his chest. For a moment, her form solidified. "Every echo began because you couldn't bear to lose a moment. You tried to hold time still. Now, let it go." He hesitated. The world screamed around them, clocks shattering, air splitting, seconds looping, endlessly. "Let it go," she repeated, her voice breaking into static. He took her hand, the last fragment of warmth left in the storm, and closed his eyes. In that instant, he released everything. The guilt, the loneliness, the ache of centuries spent watching the world motionless. He stopped fighting the silence. He surrendered to it. The echoes slowed. The broken seconds began to realign. Each sound, each flicker, each drop of rain returned to its rightful place. And for a heartbeat, Just one. Everything was still again. When he opened his eyes, she was gone. Not vanished, but diffused. Her light now part of everything. The glint of metal on the rails, the shimmer in the puddles, the breath between the ticking of clocks. He stood alone in the middle of the platform, his reflection fractured across countless mirrors of rain. The whisper came one last time, but now it wasn't haunting. It was gentle, rhythmic. "You taught me to breathe," the silence said. "Now it's your turn." He inhaled, and the world, the real imperfect human world, moved again. Chapter 5. The breath beyond time. Morning had no right to be so quiet. Not the kind of quiet that weighs, but the kind that listens, patient, gentle, as if the world were holding its breath to see what he would do next. The storm that had torn through the night was gone. The city still existed, but softer now, as if it had been rewritten by forgiveness. He stood at the same platform where everything had begun. The rails gleamed with rain. The clocks were steady again, ticking with a rhythm, almost tender. No ghosts, no echoes, no miracles, only life, moving, breathing, fragile, and free. He should have felt peace. He didn't. Peace was absence. What he felt was presence, the awareness that she was still here, in ways his eyes couldn't measure. Every shimmer on the puddles carried her cadence. Every heartbeat of the city trembled with her voice. She was no longer a person standing beside him. She had become the pause between seconds, the thread that held everything together. He took a slow breath and whispered into the damp morning, "If you can hear me, teach me what comes after silence." A faint warmth brushed against his cheek, not wind, not air, but recognition. The puddles rippled, though there was no rain. The sound of a bell, distant but clear, moved through the station, and he realized the impossible. The world was answering him without stopping. He closed his eyes. The rhythm of time folded around him, not halting but swaying, like a tide remembering its moon. His heartbeat synced to the sound, not commanding, not resisting, just being. Then came the whisper, softer than before, everywhere at once. "You let it go. Now you can hold it." Her voice. It wasn't made of sound anymore, but of motion itself. The sigh of the train, the drip of water from steel, the inhale of the wind through distant alleys. Every note of existence carried a syllable of her being. "I thought you were gone," he said. "You thought time ends. It never did. You only forgot how to move with it." He turned slowly. The light behind him bent, gathering into the faint outline of a woman woven from brightness and air. Not entirely form, not entirely dream. She looked like memory pretending to be real for one last time. "Am I seeing you or remembering you?" he asked. "Both," she said. "Love is the memory that refuses to fade, so the world keeps replaying it until it understands." He took a step closer, afraid she would vanish. "And if I forget again?" Her smile was luminous but sad. "Then you'll find me again, in the pause you leave between heartbeats." He wanted to touch her, but she shook her head. "Not this time," she said. "You don't need to hold what's already inside you." He looked around, at the rain beginning to fall again, at people moving in perfect, flawed human rhythm. For the first time, he didn't envy them. He envied nothing, because now he could see her everywhere. The girl buying coffee, her laughter curved like the one he'd once caused, to freeze. The old man adjusting his watch, his trembling hands echoing the rhythm she'd taught him. The mother holding her child, the same quiet courage that had once whispered between seconds. The world was breathing her, and so was he. "Is this what you wanted?" he asked. "To disappear into everything?" not disappear, she said. To belong. To be what time becomes when it learns to love. He felt tears, but they didn't fall. They lingered, perfect, motionless, before dissolving into the air. The light around her dimmed, folding back into the world that had once rejected her warmth. I don't know how to live without stopping everything, he admitted. Then don't stop, she answered. Live slowly enough to feel every second, but never still enough to break them. The train roared past. This time he didn't flinch. The sound filled him instead of frightening him. He let it pass through his bones, through his pulse, through the hollow she had left behind. And for the first time, he understood what it meant to move with the world instead of against it. He laughed quietly, breath trembling. I think I'm finally listening. Good, she whispered. Then the universe will listen back. And with that, the light dissolved. Not gone, simply rearranged. A trail of gold lingered where she had stood, catching on the rising mist, then scattering into countless motes that floated upward like sparks of dawn. He breathed in. For a heartbeat, the air inside him glowed. And when he exhaled, it shimmered outward, through the station, through the streets, through the endless network of ticking clocks and restless hearts. 1,000 moments found harmony again. A mother's lullaby, a stranger's sigh, the whisper of waves against a distant shore. Each one carried her name, though no one knew it. He watched as sunlight broke through the clouds, the same light that once froze beneath his sorrow, and smiled. The curse was no longer curse, nor miracle. It was memory given, rhythm. And rhythm, he now understood, was love's oldest language. He turned toward the exit, where people hurried to their lives. None of them noticed the man who had once stopped the world for love. But the clocks did. Every one of them ticked in unison, a quiet pulse of gratitude echoing through metal and air. At the door, he paused, hand on the frame, and looked back one last time. The platform was empty, except for the shimmer of light where she had been. He whispered, not expecting an answer, "Thank you for teaching me how to breathe." And from somewhere deep within the rhythm of the morning, between the sigh of the train and the hum of the city, came the reply, soft, eternal, and kind. "You taught me too." He stepped into the daylight, and time, grateful and alive, kept moving, beautifully, endlessly, between their heartbeats, ending the silence between their names. When the story ends, there is no silence. There is only the space where two heartbeats once met, still echoing, still remembering. The world moves again, slowly, tenderly, as if afraid to wake the dream that taught it mercy. In every clock's tick, in every drop of rain, in every breath taken without fear, something of them remains. He walks through the city without looking back, yet every reflection holds a trace of her light, not as a ghost, but as rhythm. Love has stopped being a moment. It has become emotion, invisible but eternal. Time no longer breaks under its weight. It breathes with it. Some say that when you pause between seconds, you can still feel them. A man who once stopped the world for love, and a woman who taught silence how to speak. Maybe that is how all miracles end. Not in thunder, but in quiet gratitude. Not in farewell, but in continuation. Because love never truly leaves. It simply changes form. Until the next heartbeat finds it again.